Willkommen nach der 11 Uhr Waffle. Let's meet today's guests. First up, a man with one of the most distinctive laughs on the show. You might recognise it from the unforgettable exploding fingers incident with Tomo the other month. It's Chris Cutting.
Hey! Oh, babe, I'm ready. See how I'm going to.
Welcome back to the show.
I'm glad to be back.
Secondly, the man who is fast becoming the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer of the Waffle, stepping in to replace Kathy Smedley, James Miller, Emma Price and Jennifer Roberts, Carla Smith, and, well, the list goes on and on and on. Back for a second week in a row, it's Christopher Stanley.
The pinky and the brain.
So ist mein Handy. Guten Abend. Wie geht's?
Ich bin gut, wie geht's du?
Ich bin super.
Sehr gut, sehr gut.
We can't keep this going.
We're diversifying the audience.
It's not
German edition of the Waffle. Allons-y.
That's French.
French, German.
And lastly, brace yourselves for some disturbing news. The land of Cornwall is no longer protected by its First Lady. Its residents walk the streets uncertain of where to buy sea salt. Directors stalk its theatres, unable to get their plays produced. It can only mean one thing. Yes, she's crossed the border. It's Lucy Ahmed.
Hello! Good to be back.
You're in Bristol now, which is weird.
I am in Bristol and I'm enjoying it. I've been here for 4 months. It's good.
Is it better than Cornwall? Or
It's different from Cornwall. It's not better.
have you got used to shopping centres yet?
Just about. There's choice here, which is a problem for someone who's really indecisive as myself.
And you have a bridge you have to pay to cross.
Cross the bridge.
Yeah. You don't,
Clifton Suspension Bridge, dear.
yeah, you have to pay to cross that.
Yeah.
I've walked across that for free before.
Well, yes, so you can walk across it for free. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's not
Yeah,
the
you
Middle
couldn't say
Ages,
it.
Chris.
If you want to drive over it, it's 50p.
Okay. I was going to say that seems a bit harsh.
Were you expected to meet the Black Knight halfway across it or something?
Yes. I can't wait to find that
That's
bridge.
happened to me a few times. You can only get about 2 people down there at any one, sort of horizontally. So you do get sort of blocked off.
None
So
shall.
it's just the Black Knight is insistent on taking sort of photos of Bristol skyline instead of guarding.
This episode will have the hashtag Black Knight Selfie.
They do actually use it on one of the poster campaigns at the train station, where it goes on about somebody like they go to the Bristol for the day with their wife and that, and then it's like, we like to end the day at the observatory, because as my wife likes to put it, I like to keep an eye on Bristol for her. And it's just the weirdest thing.
The thing is that observatory is for sale. You can buy that if you've got some spare cash. He can buy that now for his wife.
Things we might need. Milk, bread, observatories.
I don't know, an observatory would be quite a cool thing to have.
Yeah.
Can you imagine dropping that into conversation? So, Stoner's observatory.
Just makes your life sound more dramatic, doesn't it? Quickly, to the observatory.
Do you want to come back to mine? I'll show you my big telescope.
Oh, Mac, that was bad, even for you.
How very well observed, Mac.
They'll have stars in their eyes.
Oh!
Where's Loz? We could do telescope-related puns all day, but we should probably do the show.
Probably.
Question 1! A history professor has disputed Britain's reputation of the traditional family being a married couple with 2 children, claiming that it's purely a myth. But which family can claim to be the most traditional of all British families? And we'll start with Christopher Stanley, last week's winner.
When he says myth, that's a pretty boring myth, as myths go. Hercules, Medusa, traditional family. I like to think the Weasley family from Harry Potter. I like to think of them as quite a typical family. Bit broke, money's not great, but, they get along, there are arguments, the house is a bit rickety, but there's plenty of banter, you've got an eccentric father who likes to invent things that go a bit wrong, you've got a classic middle child in Ron, and you've got a sort of feisty daughter, and a mother who's an excellent cook. So, even if they're not the traditional family, they're a family that I'd like to be part of. I wouldn't mind being a Weasley. It wouldn't mean that I was ginger, though, which would be an interesting change in appearance for me.
Okay, it's a good start. I've just realised we have two Chris's on the show, which is going to make crossing over very difficult.
Yes.
So you need some kind of inventive nickname for me then. Call me Your Highness.
Your Highness, but Chris is the Feckfather.
Bow before
Your
me.
Majesty.
Christopher Cutting, what's your answer?
Well, talking of Your Majesty and Your Highness, I think that the most traditional family is surely right. That traditional family article where it said, it's a myth that looks like a traditional family, but really is not the truth. I think surely the royal family are the best example of...
Oh my god, you've got the same answer as me.
Surely that's the best example of a group of people who project this outward image of having this kind of family in this kind of traditional institution, but it's not a real traditional institution. They sort of reinvent themselves all the time. But the key to their success is that they look old, they look traditional when they're not. And so that to me is the really chimes with the article that was about, because I saw it. My alternative answer, which is sort of lolsier, is that the Plantagenets specifically are the typical the traditional family, because they're a collection of competing blood relatives, sort of united in kind of Machiavellian schemes against one another to sort of come out on top and ruin each other's lives. So it's sort of Wars of the Roses and stuff. So
They really did all hate each other, didn't they?
yes, exactly, precisely. So I think that's the most. I think that's an archetypal traditional family. People who actually hate each other and want to slaughter each other and happen to be blood related.
Again, Lucy, you said you got the royal family as well.
Yes, I think me and Chris are spending way too much time together because we were thinking along the same lines there. But I was going to go with the Queen and the royal family because I was going to say that actually, the fact that they are so dysfunctional with all their, affairs, divorces, and all the scandal that goes around with them, the slightly racist grandfather and the kid that looks like the next door neighbour, and the ex-daughter-in-law you don't want around. That sums up pretty much all the dysfunctional families in the UK, I think.
Just need the pervy uncle who isn't really allowed to parties, don't you?
Yeah, you do. There probably is one somewhere tucked away and hidden from
Edward.
newspapers.
Edward? No one cares about Edward.
Andrew!
Okay, question number 2 now. St Andrew's Golf Club is to vote on abolishing its males-only policy, but what other archaic rules are there out there in the world which still shocks you? Christopher Cutting.
Okay, I'm going to say the amount of countries in the world that still put atheists to death. There are still 13 countries, all of them Muslim, that choose to put atheists to death, that have no sort of religious tolerance in that way. Because surely that's one of the most sort of progressive things in the sort of modern era is the progression from a sort of absolutist religion imposed on everyone to that kind of pluralism and tolerance, and you should be able to believe whatever you want to believe. So that still genuinely shocks me. It's I know sort of Afghanistan, Iran, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, those places like that. They all do it. That still genuinely shocks me. That's my answer.
Richard Dawkins' world tour goes horribly, horribly wrong.
Well, yeah, it's not a very promising prospect for humanists wanting to take a tour around the globe, is it?
That could be a problem in 2022 when Qatar hosts the World Cup.
Yeah. Oh, Christ alive. Yeah.
And the half-time entertainment.
You just have to make sure not to blaspheme while you're over there. I think it is. There are sort of blasphemy laws that then lead to your bloody death.
There goes every England football fan.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. Someone puts it over the bar for good. Oh.
Okay, Lucy.
Yeah, going on sort of the same vein of the whole death penalty and things like that, I was going to say pretty much most of those countries you've just mentioned, and obviously Uganda as well, all have the death penalty for anyone who's homosexual. And obviously the new sort of laws that have come into Russia and other various countries, it's shocking to me because I think the fact that most of these places were actually starting to slowly become a little bit more progressive, and then they've like done a total U-turn, and now it's just unacceptable in most of these countries, and yeah, especially obviously Uganda as well, the death penalty.
Okay, strong. Chris, you've got Christopher Stanley. It sounds like being on a bit like University Challenge, isn't it? Christopher Stanley.
Christopher Stanley!
It's just like, yeah.
Two strong answers to compete with there. What are you going with? The fact that Freckles won't vote in old presidents?
Oh, so outrageous. I think both Chris's. It's not necessarily a rule, but it might as well be. There's only one black manager in the whole of the Football League, and that's Chris Hughton. There's 92 clubs, and there's only one black manager, despite the sort of proliferation of black players. And it kind of feels wrong to me, and it still seems that football, in terms of progressivism, it doesn't really feel like there are enough laws sort of stamping out racism. In Russia, it's still a huge problem. Spain as well. On a more light-hearted note, still can't inherit the throne if you're Catholic. The English throne. This has been the case since I think about...
Place?
Yeah, I think so. Since about 1688. Yeah, it's still...
1707.
Yeah, that's it. Because it kind of stems from James II being the last Catholic and basically being thrown out because he was that unpopular, with a bit of help from William of Orange. And you also, if you marry a Catholic, even if you're not Catholic yourself, that's a problem. Also, archaic rules, I'm pretty sure this is still in place in York. If you're Scottish and you come inside the city walls after dark, you can be shot with a crossbow.
If you're wielding a bow and arrow.
Yeah, it's still perfectly legal. And I think there's a similar thing for Welshmen in Chester. So, yeah, I think the tourist information offices keep quiet about these rules.
Because York have never quite got over the fact that Scotland took over it for a short while back in the day.
Still very bitter.
Very bitter. I mean, it's not like the Scots hold on to bitterness.
No, not still. Gordon Brown is as genial as you can come across. Life and soul of the party.
Just never give Gordon Brown a crossbow. let him wander into York. Tell him it's like a historical reenactment. And so
Gordon, you've won this special award. Come down to York for it. I am. Why York? Well, it's a lovely city. It just come down.
Question number 3 now. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, a spin-off to Harry Potter, is to be made into a film trilogy. But what holds the title of greatest film trilogy in your opinion? Lucy?
I'm going to go with the Toy Story trilogy, mainly because it is really sort of that nostalgic type of film which sort of spanned, my aging, as it were. And it's the only sort of trilogy I could think of that didn't have like a Duff film in there at some point. But because I was going to say the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy, obviously Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz are amazing, but the last one, The World's End, was a bit rubbish. So yeah, I'm going with the Toy Story trilogy just because of nostalgic value.
Okay, Christopher Stanley.
That was my answer.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, because like you say, each an excellent film in their own rights. And, breaking the usual rule that the second film is terrible. There's so many trilogies that have had such a promising film like The Matrix. And you think, oh, it's amazing. And the second film comes out and it's just so bad. And if I had to pick another one...
10-minute rave scene.
Oh, yeah. What was that about? And and the random Frenchman.
My eyes bleed.
Yeah, your predecessors had much more respect. Why was he French? What?
Did you know the Wachowski brothers are no longer brothers?
Eh? How can they no longer be brothers?
One of them get a sex change.
Yes.
Whoa.
That's being facetious.
One of the Wachowski brothers is now a lady.
That's a twist.
Wow.
They're just the Wachowskis.
If I had to pick a trilogy that wasn't the Toy Story trilogy, I'd probably go with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Because I think
It's obviously the best one. Come on.
It's kind of showing, isn't it, how trilogies are not,
Good.
there aren't that many good trilogies out there, because all three of us have only managed to find two between us.
Back to the Future.
Oh, that's true. Back to the
No, I do have another answer though.
Oh, okay, right. Well, Lucy has Toy Story. Sort this out. I'll go with Lord of the Rings, because I think each film has some really good points to it. I know the third one kind of fades in and fades out a bit, but you can kind of understand why he does that. I had to say that I don't think The Hobbit is going to be as good a trilogy, and I'm not quite sure why it's a trilogy, and I'm not quite sure why Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is a trilogy. It seems to be a thing, doesn't it? That you can't be happy with just one film. You've got to gorge yourself and try and make three. And yeah.
It's just a money making scheme, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Hobbit trilogy is just money making.
But we didn't have this before. It's not like you have Bambi 2.
Actually, I think there is a Bambi 2.
There is actually a Bambi 2.
Oh no.
Chris, are you not
All
coming
the
to see
Disney
Faustus
films had
II
sequels.
this year?
What happens in Bambi 2?
His dad dies.
Can't die again.
I think Bambi doesn't die. No.
Can't kill
Well, there's no
Bambi.
you can't have a trilogy of Bambi dies in Bambi 2.
I think there's another deer and the father dies.
Oh.
But that's the problem with Disney. They just keep churning out more sequels.
Yeah. Well, the Batman trilogy is also quite good, to be fair.
Are you going to be cutting any answers, Chris?
It's got the first film in the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy is the low point really. It picks up, but the second and third ones are good.
Yeah. So
The first one is a bit.
No, the first one's really good, but you forget how good it is by how amazing the second and third one are. When you watch the Batman Begins, it's a really good film.
The third one has a retarded ending, sort of, because its revelations are really Bane's actually quite an interesting sort of villain. Oh no, actually no, it wasn't him. Oh, I'm supposed to remember all this shit from the first film that like half the audience probably hasn't watched, and it's a bit. I thought that was a bit of a duff sort of twist.
There's been quite a good video on YouTube recently called Bane Cat, which is fantastic, which is a cat with Bane's mask, just saying various villainous things. Just this owner sort of looking quite cross as he's having to sweep up a plate, and the Bane Cat going, "Ah yes, I was wondering which would break first."
Okay, cutting. Have you actually got an answer, or has Chris taken up every trilogy made?
My non-Lord of the Rings answer is the original Star Wars trilogy.
Ah.
Which just because they are fantastic, and the original ones anyway. I think the prequels are rubbish. But the original trilogy is really, really good, especially for its time. And it genuinely did a lot to change the sci-fi game, so that in as far as cinema history and kind of sci-fi history is concerned. So really, I guess Star Wars did for sci-fi films what Lord of the Rings did for fantasy films. I suppose.
Yeah, that's very true.
Although Star Wars did have the knock-on effect that it effectively cancelled Doctor Who, because Michael Gray took one look at Star Wars and looked at Doctor Who and thought, well, Doctor Who doesn't really, compare. It's nowhere in the same league. Get rid of it.
Yeah, but if it hadn't been cancelled, would David Tennant have been cast as Doctor Who, Christopher? Stanley.
Well, you can't stop David Tennant. He's a force of nature, especially with that hair. Nothing can stop the hair.
If David Tennant hadn't been cast as Doctor Who, he wouldn't have been cast as Hamlet.
Yeah.
That's
about
very
that.
True.
Think about that.
Oh.
Time for the scores now. In last place on 13, it's Chris, Stanley.
Oh.
And tied on 14, it's Lucy and Chris Cutting.
Yeah!
Ooh, so it's close. It's close.
Question 4 now. Network Rail is expected to be fined £70 million for the delays caused to passengers on its journeys. So give me other examples of large fines. Christopher Stanley.
Alan Pardew was recently fined £100,000 for headbutting David Myler, which I just like this story because Alan Pardew tried to explain his actions by saying, "I tried to push him away with my head." but that was wrong. And you're just there sort of thinking, what, when you see a door that says push, do you try and headbutt it? Is that some sort of rhino instinct? But what I quite like, there was a call centre based in Swansea, which received quite a few accolades from appearing on a BBC Three show. And they were fined large amounts, like something like at least 25,000, I think 250,000, for trying to help people who were missold PPI by banks, who've also been fined, millions and billions of pounds for this. So, yeah, a call centre and trying to help people who were the victims of someone who got fined, got fined themselves. So I think there's a nice, delicious irony there.
Okay, Lucy next.
I'm going to go for the fine that Germany was given after World War One. They've only just recently paid it off in 2010, and it was 269 billion gold marks, which is equivalent of 100,000 tons of gold that they were expected to pay. Taking them 90 years. So.
And in fact,
it's a good lesson that if you charge someone too much for a service such as losing a war, then it can come back to bite you. Sort of 20 years later. So think about that next time you overcharge someone for something.
In fact,
they might become Hitler.
I think at one point they couldn't pay it, so they basically got invaded. The rural land got taken over by France. It's a bit like if you can't pay your rent, your landlord sort of comes into your room and jumps up and down with your furniture.
Cutting, are you implying that Hitler started World War II because he was overdrawn on his current account?
But Germany was a bit overdrawn on their current hyperinflation and stuff.
You do not have enough Deutschmark available in your bank account. Would you like to invade Poland? Yes.
Yeah, so it's a bit like let's stop paying and let's make Germany great again and let's take over Europe. Woo! European unity. No, I'm joking.
Cutting large fines.
Large fines. It's a bit of an apocryphal example, but it's said that the man who invented chess in China, gave it to the Chinese emperor, and he said, it's, what can I give you in return for this? So what's the fee, baby? So he said, oh, it's fine. I'll just put 1 grain on the first square, and then double that for the next one. Put that for every square, so you end up with a sort of exponential growth from sort of square 3 to square 4. By the time you would get to the end of that square, which this is a fact that leads me to believe that he didn't really pay him back. You end up with more grain than has ever been produced by humankind. It's sort of purely through exponential growth. So
wow.
So I don't think he got his payment.
That's a lot of rice.
Bet the guy threw a paddy after that one.
Oh! Jeez. That was so bad. That was awful. But yeah, that's my answer.
Question number 5 now. Climbing inside the carcass of a whale was once thought to bring relief to rheumatism sufferers. So give me other examples of medical treatments from animals or animal parts. Lucy.
Yes, there is a new sort of treatment happening in New Zealand, which they're trying to seek approval for in the EU, which is honeybee venom. And apparently it helps with arthritis pain. So Nelson Honey in Marketing has said that 2 teaspoons a day of its honey with the added venom milked from honeybees has an anti-inflammatory power to soothe joints and things.
How do you milk a honeybee?
I don't want to know how you milk a honeybee.
You just have to
get it excited.
Yeah.
Oh.
No. Those bees love dancing. So they just exploit the dance floor in the hive.
Yeah.
Cutting animal parts.
Okay.
Cutting animal parts.
This was a I had a lot of choices actually because I used to I owned a bunch of documents with ridiculous treatments in. I chose this one at random from it's from a cookbook from the Elizabethan era, and which sort of deviates into these weird treatments. So to take away the freckles in the face. So wash your face in the wane of the moon with a sponge morning and evening with the distilled water of elder leaves, letting the same dry into the skin. Your water must be distilled in May. This is of a traveller who had cured himself thereby. So basically some pub drunk has told me that he rid himself of freckles by sort of bathing himself with leaves and water that had been distilled in May in the wane of the moon. No, I think another highlight is washing. Is to cure babies of sunburn, wash them again in the light of the moon with breast milk for the cream. It'll stop them burning. So yeah, so anti-freckle leaf and breast milk sun cream in a cookbook. Just randomly.
Those crazy Elizabethans. Okay, Chris Stanley, I'm sure you've got a history of medical treatments.
I've got tons of these. Leeches, obviously, the classic medical treatment. Yep, suck all the blood out of you. That'll cure you. Oh, you're not. Oh, you're dead because we've sucked all the blood out of you. Whoops. Tiger phallus soup was thought to give Chinese men virility. Yep, find a tiger, just castrate it, make a soup. Yeah, you'll be fit as a butcher's dog. Ancient Egyptians thought popping a dead mouse in your mouth cured toothache, which is just, why? I mean, does it have to stay there? How long? And Elizabethans thought if you chopped a mouse in half and pressed that against a wart, you'd get rid of the wart. I'm not sure why they thought half a mouse, kind of a weird one. And in Mesopotamia, I think that's my favourite one, doctors worked out the illness of a patient, not by looking at the patient themselves, but by looking at the livers of sacrificed sheep. So they didn't examine the patient in any way. They just looked at the livers of sacrificed sheep and went, oh, yeah, oh, no, yeah, it's dead. But one that actually still works, and one that's been used since ancient times, snake oil. It relieves joint pain, and they still use it.
I swear every show you come on, you just have one answer which you go, I'm just going to do a list here and make sure I score a point for each one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Question 6, and this will just be a one-namer for time. Alexandra Burke has been cast as Rachel Marin in the West End production of The Bodyguard. But who would you cast as her bodyguard? Mr. Stanley.
Justin Bieber, so that he would die trying to save her.
Okay. Chris Cutting.
Morgan Freeman, because her voice singing Hallelujah in a sort of mass media outlet would bring the mass media incarnation of God round to sort of protect her. Plus, as a working black actor, he combines sort of Nelson Mandela with Samuel L. Jackson and Lawrence Fishburne. Because when Nelson Mandela died, sort of Morgan Freeman got lots of tweets sort of about him. So I can't believe Morgan Freeman is dead.
Oh God!
And all the kind of action black actors all get confused for one another all the time in sort of interviews.
They do. Someone was interviewing Samuel L. Jackson, wasn't he?
Yeah,
they was sort of saying, how did you feel about the Super Bowl commercial? And it's like, what Super Bowl commercial? And it'd been Lawrence Fishburne, and it's just bad, isn't it?
So Morgan Freeman's the ideal bodyguard. He's God, and he's got action and Nelson Mandela.
Okay, I'm glad we're keeping these to one-namers for time, guys.
Yeah.
Lucy.
Richard Armitage or Aidan Turner. Because they're pretty.
Okay. Time for the scores now. It's 23 points. In last place, Chris Cutting. 24 points, it's Chris Stanley. And 25, it's Lucy.
Yeah!
Okay, on our Facebook page, the 11 o'clock Waffle, we have a teaser question this week. Every week, really. This week's one was about the fact that Google Maps on your smartphone and tablet, you can now hunt for Pokemon in your area, and if you catch enough, you'll get a job with Google somehow. So the question was favourite Pokemon. Prize this week goes to James and Ed. for giving detailed descriptions about Pokemon I don't think anybody's heard of.
Yeah, they were quite obscure, but awesome sounding nevertheless.
James and Ed, they both win little Ash Ketchum baseball caps to wear.
Awesome.
Question 7 now. Michael Jackson is releasing a new album in May despite the fact that he's dead. So other projects released posthumously. Is that correct? Posthumously? Posthumously. Other projects released posthumously after the star's death. Christopher Stanley.
I think The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's performance in that was fantastic, and he got loads of awards for that. He got an Oscar as Best Supporting Actor. He got a Golden Globe. He got a BAFTA. He got an award in Australia, and he was the first posthumous person to get that. So it just shows how brilliant a performance it is, how sort of twisted and weird and awesome it is. It's actually not that uncommon for people to posthumously release albums. Elvis Presley and Eva Cassidy, they both had not just...
Hey, stop with the lists. You can't...
Stop with the list! Yeah. Chris, cutting. Yeah, stop with the list.
You have to leave everybody else stuff, Chris.
I'm getting a bit greedy. But yeah, they both had 3 albums released after their death, which topped the charts. So Michael Jackson, it's been done.
Okay, Lucy.
Okay, I've got a film, actually, and it's The Game of Death, which was released in 1978, and it's a Bruce Lee film, and he had filmed like 100 minutes worth of footage for this film, but then stopped working on it because he went to go and work on Enter the Dragon. So after his death, the director decided to finish the film using Bruce Lee lookalike archive footage of Lee from other films, not even really from the film that they had actually been filming, and created a whole new storyline and cast. And basically, the cobbled together film only had 15 minutes of actual footage of Lee, because most of the footage that he had filmed was outtakes, because he wasn't very good when he was filming this particular film for some reason. So basically the film was finished using a lookalike called Kim Tai-chung.
I honestly thought you were going to say Kim Jong-il.
No. Kim Tai-chung. And the stunt double as well.
Okay, that's an impressive answer. Christopher Cutting.
Okay. Like posthumous albums. Well, if we're not having the list clogged with tactics here. All right, I'm going to go with Nirvana's Unplugged in New York, which came out after Kurt Cobain's death. I don't think I need to elaborate any further on that. If we're going with the list game, Queen Made in Heaven. That was after Freddie Mercury's death. Queen Made in Heaven.
Yeah.
So, it's a sort of early 90s deaths. Resulting in albums.
Well, Johnny Cash is just about to release a new album as well.
Hey, you can't be like, no list and then come up with your own lists.
It's playing the game. In the game of lists, you win or you die. There's no middle ground.
Schubert's Unfinished Symphony.
Before we move on to question 8, I will just say, Oliver Reed, when he died filming Gladiator, his insurance policy paid for them to be able to reshoot and do all the stuff they needed to do to complete his role in the film. That was how much he was insured for, because he was such a raving alcoholic.
Shadows and Dust.
All alcoholics, as chimney sweepers must. Anyway, come on.
Question 8. The owner of the Independent newspaper has claimed that it is up for sale at the right price. So which publication would you like the chance to buy, and what changes would you make? Chris Stanley, you can have one publication. You can't have Rupert Murdoch's list.
If you could make one shot. No, it's fine. I've only got one answer to this anyway, which is the Daily Mail. Yeah, I would then do a front page cover entitled "Every Story We Printed About Cancer Was a Lie." So many stories in the Daily Mail that they say, oh, coffee, that brings on cancer, but it cures this cancer. Smoking cures this cancer, but causes this cancer. holding a baby causes this cancer. Like, none of you are scientists. Stop it. And it's generally quite a sort of hateful paper anyway. So, yeah, I'd make it nicer. Nicer male.
Okay, Christopher Cutting.
Okay, well, I would have bought Nuts magazine and turned it into a magazine about nuts, but Nuts magazine is actually about to be withdrawn. So because it's dead because internet porn, etc. So
the internet's for porn.
The internet is for porn. The internet is for porn. Anyway,
Why do you think the net was born?
For porn. Instead, I'd like to buy Private Eye and then just add my name at the end of all the articles. So I've written all of its content to propel my career into the stratosphere. And then Ian Hislop, everyone was going, oh, he's Chris Cutting's mouthpiece, and I will rule the satire market.
That's
so yeah,
a strong answer, Lucy.
So I'm going to go for a bit of a fun answer, and I would buy the Doctor Who magazine, and I would put myself in the comic strip as the assistant to Doctor Number 10.
Most predictable answer ever.
That or I'd buy The Sun and get rid of page 3.
Oh.
At least you didn't say you would put yourself on page 3.
No,
although, if you think about when you're on this show, how high our ratings go up, think of some publications figures with you on page 3.
Just me there. Yeah. No.
Pasties.
Stop. Pasties.
Just posing with pasties.
Arranged nicely. It has to be large pasties.
damn.
We're not going to comment on that because we don't ogle you.
Peppery pasties.
3 pasties for every reader.
I still love the idea of the sexy Cornish pasty. It's something we had in third year, which would be like when they were doing their burlesque thing, and we were just taking the piss, saying that they should have a sexy Cornish pasty who sort of undid herself and had all the kind of meat and sort of veg kind of spill out onto the stage as it kind of gradually unveiled more and more pasty.
This is horrific.
So yeah, sensual.
Pasties with eyelashes and a corset.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time for the scores before the final round now. On 31 points, it's Chris Stanley. 32 points, it's Chris Cutting. And 33 points, it's Lucy. So it's all very tight to play as we come to the final round, where our guests will present a news headline followed by a short summary of the story. The story can either be true and something from the past week's news, or entirely fictional. The guests will then have to guess whether they are true or false. So, Lucy, you're leading. You get to pick the running order.
I want to go last, so I'm going to say Chris Cutting and then Chris Stanley.
Okay. All right. So mine for this week is masturbating yoga enthusiast throws dead animal at passing car.
Okay.
So what this is there's a sort of man in the woods, 68-year-old man doing a yoga pose, and 2 women sort of wandering in the woods. They came across him. He was still sort of posing, but when they were sort of walking past him, he sort of lost his state of calm, sort of started waving his arms about and sort of shouting at them, and then he sort of dropped his trousers and began to, the obvious, and
urinate up a tree.
A different liquid, but yeah. So he started to stroke his third leg, and then he sort of went mad, and he picked up a sort of dead animal. It's not specified what animal it was, but I like to imagine that it was something big. He sort of ran over to the road and threw the dead animal at a passing car, and then he kind of came back and pointed at the women and had another go on his tripodium. So
wow.
So that's masturbating yoga enthusiast throws dead animal at passing car. It's exactly what it sounds like. But yeah.
Okay, Christopher Stanley,
I hope
see if
that
you can top
passes
that.
your censor.
Cat found in charity shop sofa after 5 days.
Okay.
Oh God.
Yeah, a couple bought a sofa from a shop. Seemed to be fine. They had to take it apart and then pop it back in. And after a couple of days, they heard some sort of faint meowing sound, and they had a look, and there appeared to be some claws, and yeah, they had to rip the whole thing apart, and the cat was fine. And the previous owners were happy to find that it was safe and well.
Ah, it's a nice end there. And Lucy, lastly.
Couple doomed to bad sex life awarded €28,000. Basically, the girl, she was run over by a car, and afterwards their sex life wasn't as good, this married couple. So they took the driver to court, and the insurance company basically tried to gave some line about the fact that they were some middle-aged couple, so they wouldn't be having an active sex life anyway. But actually, they were quite annoyed about this, so they took it further and they got their $28,000 reward for their bad sex life.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to believe that one.
The masturbating yoga enthusiast. Chris, do you think that's true or false?
This sounds ridiculous. But it also sounds like the sort of thing you might find in something like Metro. I'm going to say true.
Lucy?
I'm going to say true.
Okay. The cat found in the charity shop sofa cutting.
Okay, I think that's true.
Right, and Lucy?
That sounds true. That could happen.
Okay, and the couple's sex life. What do you think, cutting?
I think that's false, because it's just really non-specific. Like, he got run over by a car, so suddenly, I want to know what I would want to know what that was. Like, was it like her Vietnam, or did she just get kind of compressed or something? So I'm going to say false. I say false for that one.
Okay, and Stanley?
I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to make a complete gamble and say it's true. I'll probably be wrong.
Okay, so, right, Chris, we'll come to you first with your one. The cat found in the charity shop sofa after 5 days.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Woo!
Yeah, in Essex.
Woo!
Yeah. What happened was they'd taken apart the sofa to put it back, the couple who were selling it, and the cat must have just sort of wandered into the sofa and sort of tucked itself up. So, yeah.
Okay, Chris, put us out of suspense about the masturbating yoga enthusiast.
It's true. It's true.
I thought it was true just because you were laughing so much.
Okay.
It's also quite a difficult thing to make up.
Are you sure? 'Cause
I don't know, it's Chris.
We've had exploding fingers before.
That's true, yeah.
Okay, and Lucy, the couple deemed to have the bad sex life?
Yes, the couple was doomed to have a bad sex life and was awarded €28,000 for it.
no.
That's ridiculous.
How could
Chris's
She
gamble?
was run over and she was bedridden for a couple of months, but after that their sex life was just a bit crap, so they basically went to court and the insurance company tried to say that they were a middle-aged couple, so they probably weren't having much of an active sex life beforehand, and they were just trying to get some money.
What happened was she was driving...
What happened with Jamaica?
What happened, cutting, was she was driving along and then somebody threw a dead animal in front of her car.
Yeah, and the yoga enthusiast seed sort of got inside her and started growing
And every time they tried to sort of have some good times on the sofa, they heard this meowing sound. So,
and it turns out that they gave birth to a cat in the sofa that had come from the woods.
that would ruin your sex life, to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's time for the final scores now. In last place on 35, he gambled at the end, but it didn't pay off. Chris Stanley. On 36 points, it's Chris Cutting. And
Middle
this
ground!
week's winner with 37, it's Lucy Ahmed.
Woo! I'm back! Yeah!
You've won
I got-
for the first time in it's got to be over a year or two.
Yeah? Yeah?
Oh no, I enabled that.
I got more points than I did last week when I won, and I've come last.
Yeah, but
It's quality, my dear boy. It's quality.
My story was apparently boring.
Ed can never do anything on the final round, remember?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that's really it for this week's show, which I'm sure you will agree has been one of the more bonkers editions of the Waffle.
Woo!
We didn't even need exploding fingers this time.
Yeah.
Dear Lord, what happened when we
exploding
bring
yoga players instead.
I was going to just quickly add also the couple that doomed to their bad sex life. They're Italian. So it was in Italy that they were awarded this money.
I see.
Was it
Chris-
Berlusconi?
no, how would that be a very, very young girl?
Yeah, he doesn't really go for the middle-aged ones, does he?
Besides, couldn't he just move on? Bunga bunga, yeah.
Okay, on that bombshell, I guess cutting's off to a bunga bunga party.
Yep. Did it get me underage girl?
Chris, you got an evening of list making ahead?
Probably. How to win next time. How to take on the Tobacco Tea Theatre Company and win.
It's impossible.
Lucy, have you got any plugs to get in before we go?
Bunbury is Dead is on at the Mission Bath on the 25th and the 26th of June 2014. People should be there.
Wow, this is actually a plug which, if people actually re-listen to the show after the first week, will work for at least 2 months.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah, Lucy, that show sounds fantastic. I mean, how incredibly sexy would you say the director and playwright is?
I would say that he's incredibly sexy and very ginger, and he's hot.
That means you should go, everyone listening.
Everyone should go just to see the director.
We'll leave you on that enigma to solve out who could possibly be directing it. Thank you to Chris and Lucy, and we'll join you again next week. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.
So long.
You know, I really think you might.